Hello and welcome to another episode of the LendAPI Partner Podcasts. Today, my guest is Stephen Thompson, who is co-founder and CEO of ScoreMyCash. Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, how did ScoreMyCash get started?
Well, it's a bit of a long journey, but my business partner Eric Von Dolen and I started out as lenders ourselves quite a number of years ago, and we've been working with bank transaction data, which is what we specialize at in ScoreMyCash for a long time. Back when it was really known as Yodlee data, 10 plus years ago, and our goal back then was really to use the data as a tool for credit loss mitigation. And we tried a bunch of stuff. It worked pretty well, but wasn't really anything groundbreaking. So a number of years ago, we pivoted into like a direct to consumer app. And our direct to consumer app, ScoreMyCash, same name, was good, but it really didn't have all the features and everything that we needed because we were using just off the shelf aggregator technology. And so what we realized is we had to build all of our analytics ourselves behind the scenes. And so really the app was kind of just a user interface sitting on top of a really robust analytics infrastructure.
Mhm.
And so what we did was we took all that analytics infrastructure, turned it around, showed it to a few lender friends of ours from back in the lending space, and said, "This is what we have." And they were like, "This is pretty cool. Can we try it out? Can we use it?" And so the rest is history. Now we're providing the analytics to a number of lenders across the subprime and near prime space
Mhm.
for cash flow underwriting. And that's really what we do very well. I mean, we had to build our own categorization engine. We had to build our own scoring methodologies, our own recommendation engine, because nothing like that really existed. And so that's really how we got started.
That is really cool. It's always the best solutions come from the pain that you feel yourself, right?
No
You're
kidding.
there, you sort of say, this one thing is missing, and then one day you go like, let's just build it. Let's just do it. I know what I need. Let me build it. And it sounds like that's exactly how this went.
It was actually. And the reason I think that comes out of the operational side of doing the lending ourselves, understanding the pain points the consumers going through, and knowing what kind of solutions either existed or didn't exist in the market. So it was a matter of us testing everything out and then building it ourselves and then building it again and again and again to make it more robust.
So what is that number one use case that you solve for?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our number one use case, the thing that we do best, is we help lenders really understand the power of the bank transaction or cash flow data that they're working with. So when a consumer logs into their bank account, what they're really doing is they're saying, "Hey, tell me if my cash flow data provides enough information about me to underwrite me, give me a loan, whatever it may be." And so what we're doing is we're taking that cash flow data and we've got a robust process that sits on top of that. And then we're meeting the lenders wherever they are in their process. So if they're used to using cash flow data, or they are used to looking at cash flow data from an operational side, or they're just starting out in that journey, we have solutions across that entire space. But we give them the ability to use this cash flow data from the very, very top of the funnel on the lead gen side all the way down to the collection side. So we operate across the full spectrum of the underwriting journey. And then what we do is we provide the really robust categorization that's designed for this lending space. And then we have scores that we sit on top of that, and we have reports for human readable type stuff and all the other fun things that sit on top of that. But what we're really doing, I guess, is in a nutshell, is we're taking complex transactional data and boiling it down into attributes that people are used to seeing from a credit bureau, or scores that they're used to seeing from a credit bureau. And that makes it really easy for people to consume and put it into their typical lending frameworks that they're used to seeing, the decision engines, their LMSs, whatever it may be.
Now that is very, very helpful. And we're starting to see more and more of that, right? Like at one point it was very sort of obscure, like alternative data and cash flow and transaction data. We're starting to see more of that. And I think everyone's starting to realize, hey, this is very powerful information and it helps me make better decisions.
We call it the kind of back to the future moment. I mean, if you think
Mhm.
about 30 years plus ago, people would always bring their bank statements to the bank and say, "Hey, here you go, underwrite me. Tell me what you think about me." Now it's like the digital version of that, and so everybody is just providing that data. I think one of the things that we found recently in some of the stuff we've looked into is, we put cash flow data up against everything we can find from credit bureau data, and what we found is that typically 50% more financial obligations exist in a bank account than they do on just a single credit report. And so what that does is that means that a person actually who may not be credit worthy for a credit report actually is potentially credit worthy with their bank data. So it's actually helping people. That's what we do. We help people say yes to more consumers because we give them a better view of the data.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have more granularity, and therefore you have a better view, and
Yep,
not just sort
exactly.
of like half the information, or hopefully a little bit more than half of the information. But that is very interesting how that gets added. What is your favorite customer story?
So it's a little bit tough. We've got quite a few folks we work with in the lending space. So we're primarily working on the deep subprime to the near prime space.
Hmm.
And I think this story comes from that side of the equation. You see there's a lot of lenders out there that have experience with cash flow data going back 5, 10, 12 years in various different fashions. But I think probably the biggest thing that we've heard from people after we did a retro study with one lender who's now a live customer, they said to us after we delivered the presentation, wow, your categorization is just better than anything else we could get our hands on. Really wish we had these attributes, 12 months ago when we built our first model off this stuff. And so to us, it's kind of a validation that the work we've put into this product or these set of products for the last 2+ years is actually making sense and working in the lending space. I think the other side of that is when people look at the data that we provide back, it comes at them, it's kind of a lot of data, but they're saying this actually works for us because we're used to looking at attributes that deal with financial obligations, but you're giving us a bigger view into that. So, I mean, that goes back to what they just said, great categorization, great attributes. Wish you had this stuff for us, 12 months ago when we were first starting out.
That is a very powerful story, right? When the customer says, "Why didn't you have this earlier?" That really tells you that you have
Yeah,
product market fit. If they say, "We really
that's
need this.
exactly
We
right.
should have we should have had this before." That is the most powerful compliment you can get.
Yeah, and one of the things we often tell our lender partners is we built this stuff because we felt the pain points around cash flow data ourselves. We're not doing lending now, but if we were still doing lending, this is the stuff we would love to have our hands on. This is what if I could have had back when I was lending, I would still be doing lending. So, it's kind of a inverse testimonial that if I had had this, I'd be doing it. But it's the same thing when someone says it to me.
Yeah, that is very powerful to hear that, and even to know that you got it right based on your own experience. Now, that's probably a good point to wrap this up on. Thank you very much, Stephen, for being on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. Look forward to talking with you guys again.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and until the next Lend API partner podcast.